Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Small Business Briefing. I'm Sarah Miller, Vice President of Marketing and Strategic Communications for SBAM. Normally, I'm joined by my co-host, Brian Callie, but he is enjoying some vacation time. So instead, I have Alexa Kramer with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alexa Kramer, Director of Government Operations at the Small Business Association of Michigan.
So let's take a quick moment to thank our sponsor, Marana Group, and welcome our new member of the week. This week, we are welcoming the American Medical Mattress out of Birmingham. They're a family-owned business, and they offer high-quality, affordable medical-grade foam products. So welcome owner Matthew Lincoln and team. And we're also joined today by a special guest. Jenny Wang is DTE Energy's Director of Generation Optimization. SBAM has a long-standing partnership with DTE as part of our SBAM Energy Solutions program, bringing our members access to a variety of energy efficiency opportunities. So welcome, Jenny. Could you please share a little bit about your role with DTE?
All right. Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss some of the energy topics with you and the SBAM members today. So I am the Director of Generation Optimization at DTE, responsible for optimizing the dispatch of DTE's 10,000 megawatts of diverse generation fleet in the energy market, procuring energy power for DTE Electric's 2.2 million customers, managing wholesale power transactions, developing market strategies, integrating renewable and distributed energy resources, and ensuring compliance with all regulations for reliability and generation operations. So our goal is really to support DTE as a premier supplier of reliable and affordable electric energy by minimizing costs to our customers and maximizing value of our generation assets in the energy market.
So Jenny, you really do help keep our lights on. So that is amazing. What a role. So let's kind of get to one of the things we've been hearing a lot about in the news lately. Small businesses obviously rely on many factors to be successful. And one is something I think we all take for granted until it's gone, which is the ability to kind of operate as usual and be open for business. But with the threat of potential rolling blackouts, I think some people are kind of on edge. So is that a threat here in Michigan for our small businesses?
So the short answer is no. It is not a threat here in our service territory. We work very closely with the MISO, which is the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator. We work with MISO to ensure our customers have the dependable energy 24/7, 365 days a year, all year long. MISO in this case is responsible for operating the power grid across 15 US states and 1 Canadian province. And those 15 US states include Michigan here. We are the largest energy producer in the state of Michigan, and we do have the energy needed to serve our customers, plus reserves, even during the hottest days of the summer. When the 15-state MISO region, not necessarily the DTE service territory, is at risk of falling short because of the high demand, we are required by MISO to respond to the call to make sure as many people as possible in the region have the energy that they need. We do have pretty extensive preparedness plans in place in the event of a regional MISO issue. My team actually leads the execution of the emergency operation plans, and I can assure you that the plan is comprehensive and effective, and we are doing multiple drills and tabletop exercises throughout the year to be well prepared should MISO get into any capacity emergency situations. Many DTE Electric customers have signed up for voluntary interruptible programs where they get a lower rate in exchange for agreeing for us to interrupt their service for short periods of time if needed to help maintain regional system reliability. So, our focus continues to be on providing clean and reliable electricity to the residents of Southeast Michigan as we continue our generation transformation to cleaner sources of power like natural gas and the renewables, we want all of you to be assured that DTE is carefully planning this transition. In fact, our recently launched Blue Water Energy Center power plant is the cleanest, most efficient natural gas power plant in the United States. So coming back to the potential rolling blackouts this summer, it is not a threat in our service territory.
I think that is a relief for your customers to hear. Do you have any tips for small businesses to kind of help ensure they can continue their normal business operations in terms of, electric use?
Sure. So, first of all, DTE encourages all customers to become energy efficient. Energy efficiency can help business save money and it's better for the environment. We offer many programs to help customers become more energy efficient, and they can get started at dtesmallbusiness.com. In addition, DTE is responding to the day-to-day needs of business owners by investing in the grid of the future, something critical to the continued operations and economic development. Benefits of those investments and projects, improve reliability and capacity, and really reducing outage times for our customers. For example, last year, DTE announced a $7 billion 5-year investment plan in Southeast Michigan's electric grid, preparing the state for the 21st century demands posed by automobility, electrification, some of the exciting stuff out there, but also increasingly severe weather trends and the fast evolving needs of consumers and businesses. These investments will increase electric capacity to support customers moving toward electrification and creating a more reliable and cleaner grid. We're also hardening and upgrading some of the oldest area of our infrastructure, building substations to provide additional capacity for economic development in the communities we serve, as well as electric vehicle penetration adoption for those electrification needs for the future. These investments include, just for example, increased automation, self-healing circuits, pole maintenance, tree trimming, and projects just improve some of the oldest infrastructure, especially for our most vulnerable customers. In addition, we're planning some pilot projects to study the costs and benefits of non-wire alternatives like energy storage and burying some of the existing overhead power lines underground in residential areas. So again, these investments will result in improved reliability and reduced outage time for our customers. So the business will have the peace of mind to have continued operations. And, so we just wanted to make sure that you guys know that.
Right. So that's amazing, all of the work and planning that DTE is doing. What can the actual customer do to kind of help their own management in terms of especially as it gets hotter and hotter, the temps are going to be in the 90s again next week. What are some energy efficiency tips that the small business owner can do to kind of reduce those costs?
Yeah, so there are some simple investments that the businesses may consider. For example, programmable thermostats. So when your business is closed or you're away, maybe consider increasing the temperature to a little bit higher than normal that you are comfortable with. If you are going away for an extended period of time, set the temperature even higher or shut it off for optimal energy efficiency and cost savings, and close off some unoccupied rooms. I know, with the remote work and hybrid work, sometimes, we may have rooms or floors or entire wings that may not be essential. So you'll be able to cut back lighting and HVAC usage, reducing your bills even further. And then just some of the basic, preventative maintenance work, for your HVAC equipment. Change the filters frequently, check the filters monthly, especially during summer. if the filter looks dirty after a month, change it. At a minimum, change the filter every 3 months. A dirty filter will slow down airflow and the system will need to work harder to keep you cool and wasting energy there. Clean the condenser coils. Sometimes, debris gets accumulated there and the equipment may not be working as efficiently as possible. So wash those coils maybe twice a year for, better optimal efficiency performance. And then for grocery and convenience stores, refrigeration is the biggest electricity drain by far, accounting for almost 80% of the consumption. So keeping the doors to your cold storage units shut as much as possible. Repeated fluctuations in temperature can also damage food quality and lead to inventory waste. So equipment such as computers, barcode readers, deli scales, and cooking equipment can be shut down if they are idle. For restaurant owners, examine your cooking methods and menu to find ways to utilize your energy efficient appliances more frequently. Ovens tend to be more efficient than rotisseries, griddles more efficient than broilers. So maybe take a look at the menu and then how you cook them. Add strip curtains and automatic door closers to your walk-in refrigerator. They're inexpensive to install and they can cut outside air infiltration by about 75%. Using dishwashers only when full to conserve energy, water, and detergent. So those are just some of the quick tips for business owners to maybe consider.
Those are really great tips. And, a lot of them I think can be easily implemented. I especially like the idea that as some people are, still working from home or maybe on a hybrid schedule to really kind of close off those spaces so you're not cooling areas that people aren't occupying. So Jay, this has all been really helpful. Any final tips or words of advice for these customers?
Just a couple of quick things. So again, participate in DTE's energy efficiency programs. Take advantage of those cashback incentives that we have out there. They can help reduce your upfront investments and maximize your savings. Again, visit dtsmallbusiness.com. And then finally, we really appreciate the trust that small business customers have placed in us, and we do not take it for granted. We serve with energy. So consider DTE your partner for success. Engage with us on your evolving business needs and really embrace the energy future with us together. So again, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Jenny. We appreciate you and your partnership. And I'll just mention too, for all of our, for all the people watching today, SBAM has our Energy Solutions program. So you can learn more on the website that Jenny shared, or you can visit sbam.org/energy and request a free energy assessment as a member, and we will help you along the way. So thanks again, Jenny, and have a great day. All right, so Alexa, before the July 4th holiday, the state did finalize its budget. Are you able to give us some highlights?
Yeah, so very exciting before the 4th of July weekend, just in the nick of time, the legislature and the governor was able to negotiate fiscal year 2023 budget. And so we have on the books a law that requires this negotiation to be reached before the July 1 deadline. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. We were really glad to see that happen this year. Again, it's just really good fiscal policy. Our fiscal year here at the state of Michigan doesn't start until October 1, but again, getting that deadline in place, getting that budget in place by July 1 is always much appreciated for, I think, all sectors of government. So the negotiated bipartisan budget sits at $76 billion. That is with a B. And it is the largest budget in history. $7 billion of that is left on the balance sheet as the legislature and the governor continue to negotiate around the tax relief conversation. And I'll get to that a little bit later once I go through some of the wins in this budget, because there were certainly a lot of SBAM wins that I think were touted in this fiscal year 2023 budget. So just wanted to hit on at least a few of the high points. First and foremost, there was $6 billion for roads and infrastructure. So as much as we maybe struggle to get around those orange barrels here in Michigan, it is good for us to continue to make sure our roads and infrastructure are at the place they need to be in order to support our small businesses and our communities overall. So really excited to see that $6 billion in this fiscal year budget. And there was also over $2 billion, so we're sitting at $2.65 billion to reduce public debt. And so things like the MIPSers, which is our teacher pension fund, to reduce that debt. And so again, really good fiscal policy. The Representative Thomas Albert, who is the chair of the House Appropriations, along with others, this is a really big priority for him and for some of the caucus members. And so really great to see that being implemented. And again, just really strong fiscal policy. In that same wave, I would put the additions into the state's rainy day fund. Again, good fiscal policy to have that shored up. So we saw an increase of $180 million for the rainy day fund. On the education side, so I'll start with kind of our K-12 system. So we saw a lot of increases around our per pupil foundation allowance. So this is the stream that I would say gets the most attention. So this is something that is calculated per pupil. It's not the only funding stream when it comes to our education system. There is multiple, but again, this one is the bulk, again, gets the most attention. And so we are bringing that up to $9,150 per student. So that will be kind of the baseline. And so every student will have that amount over $9,000 per student in our system. We also saw additional money being put for items like special education. So knowing that those students need extra support, we were putting over $300 million towards special education students to give them that support kind of on top of that per pupil allowance. So again, really setting up our students in our K-12 system for continued success in the future. Also, outside of just the students, we were also talking about teacher retention and recruitment programs. So we are sitting at almost $600 million for those programs to be implemented here in Michigan. Again, wanting to attract and retain the best and brightest teachers to teach our students to make sure that they have the best education possible. So really excited to see that program get across the finish line. Outside of our K-12 system, more in the talent space, I would say broadly, we saw $55 million for the Michigan Reconnect program. This is something that SBAM has been very involved in since the very beginning, really at the ground level, in developing what this program looks like. This is kind of a last dollar tuition scholarship, allowing displaced workers to come back to their local community college and earn a degree or certificate, right? And so really targeted towards those displaced workers, the 25-year and older displaced workers, getting them back and getting them a degree or certificate. That way they could participate more fully in our workforce system. So we saw additional funding for that program going strong and serving so many Michiganders already. In tandem to that, I would put and highlight the Center for Adult Success. So there was one time $9.2 million to stand up this, what we call a Center for Adult Success, something that SBAM has been very supportive of. When we first started to talk about Reconnect, we really wanted to say, okay, it's one thing to provide this scholarship. It's one thing to get folks maybe in the door of their community college, but how do we ensure completion, right? And so having that holistic conversation around what wraparound supports are needed for the individual student, but also what supports are needed for our post-secondary system to ensure that they have the support needed to get those students across the finish line. And so this Center for Adult Success will really be able to bolster those completion rates and help the Reconnect program be even a better, more efficient program for those that go into it. Outside of Reconnect and the Center for Adult Success, we have the Going Pro Talent Fund. This is a proven talent program. If you're not familiar with the Going Pro Talent Fund, this is a grant program within the state of Michigan. Fiscal year 2023 has it at $55 million, and small businesses all over Michigan would work with their local Michigan Works agency to complete a application because it is a competitive grant, and the grant dollars that businesses would receive would go towards training their employees, either existing employees or newly hired employees. And so from the business perspective, you need to have a person, you need to have an open position, and you need to be able to provide that training for that person to reach that and be able to take on that new responsibility. And so it's great for businesses because you're meeting your real-time demands. It's great for employees because they're gaining new credentials, right? The whole intent of going pro is that the employee at the end of the day has an industry recognized certificate or credential in their back pocket, again, so they're gaining new skills. And it's really just a win-win for everyone involved. And so we're really excited to see the continuation of going pro. Something from the policy side too, SBAM has been working with the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. So myself, I've been working in a work group with them and other business partners. We've also had SBAM members participate in work groups, again, working with the department to say, how can we streamline this application process? How can we make this the easiest possible for small businesses to apply and receive these funds? So we're really excited to see from both the funding perspective, it continue, and then from the programmatic side, it be able to really be kind of flexible and able to meet our small business needs too. Outside of that, and I would just kind of put maybe in tandem with the Reconnect and going pro, this bump in both our universities and community colleges, a 5% increase across the board. And so that's also really a good thing, I think, for businesses, because we know that as we are wanting more from our universities and community colleges, we need to give them the funding in order to produce those great workers that we can utilize in our small businesses across the state. And last but certainly not least, we did see $2.5 million for the TriShare pilot program. And so this is a program that has now within fiscal year 2023 budget has kind of grown from pilot. And so now it's 2.5 million ongoing funding. And so this program started out back in 2019, 2020, and has really grown. And so the idea is splitting the cost of childcare between state employee and employer. Employers really going after this because it's a benefit for their employees that they're able to offer to their employees. Again, we know childcare is a huge barrier for workers. And so an employer being able to say, here, I recognize that this is a barrier. This is something that I'm able to do, is a really powerful message to their employees. And from the employee side, you would need to be just enough over that subsidy where you no longer get childcare subsidy. But really between that, I think it sits at 185 and 285% federal poverty level. So again, you're not receiving a childcare subsidy, but you're still at a point where childcare is a significant amount of your monthly income, right? And so it is a barrier. Do you stay home with your children or do you continue in the workplace because it's that much of financial burden? So continuing this program, seeing it expand, and continuing and seeing other states across the nation look to Michigan to implement this program is all really great stuff. So that's kind of the highlights from the budget. Did want to mention two things. We talked a little bit about $7 billion that's left on the balance sheet for this tax conversation. And one of the last times I was on here, we talked a little bit about what's going on the tax front. This is still something that is heavily negotiated between the legislature and the governor. We still haven't yet reached a conclusion. SBAM has been very involved in these tax conversations, particularly around an income tax cut, again, where the bulk of our small businesses pay their taxes, and then also the earned income tax credit. So that earned income tax credit we see as kind of the reversal of unemployment. So it's an incentive, a tax credit that is incentivizing work, right? And so it phases out after you meet a certain threshold, but it's really dates back to the Reagan administration. It's been around for a long time at the federal level. This is just simply saying, hey, we're matching the federal level at a certain percent. And so it was 20 or 30% way back when. It's now down to 6% of that federal credit. We are wanting it to be ramped back up to either between that 20 and 30%. And so again, all of these tax negotiations are still ongoing, something that SBAM is very dedicated to and involved in. And with $7 billion on the balance sheet, I think that we have some wiggle room to work with. So I'm feeling really good about those continuing conversations the rest of the summer. And then outside of the tax relief, I will just mention one other thing as far as future conversations around talent too. So I know that I covered a lot of talent items, but I think that there's still a lot we can do here for small businesses. And so I have been working with the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation on some initiatives that I hope to get, maybe not in this fiscal year, but as we continue conversations around the American Rescue Plan dollars and some supplemental dollars. So lots more to happen, but a lot of good things in this fiscal year budget.
All right, before we get back to the MEDC, I do want to mention that I dropped 2 links in the chat here. One is your Hey Alexa column for June that kind of gives a recap of the budget and some other items. And the second is a link to a webinar that we're co-hosting in August on TriShare. So we'll have some more details out about that soon, but I did want to preview that for everyone. So you mentioned MEDC. And as we kind of look to the future, there are actually 3 new positions related to small business that are starting like soon. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so actually just today, I think is the first day that these positions are taking hold. So there's a lot of either new positions or a lot of promotions happening within MEDC, but something that MEDC and SBAM have been working on for quite some time is wanting to recognize small business within the economic development conversation. And right, economic development for small business looks and feels very different. And so having dedicated staff just that get up every day thinking about small business growth is something that we think is a really good thing. So we have 3 new hires that start today. And I'm really excited to work with them on the future of economic development for small businesses here in Michigan. And I think that they would be good folks to have in a future small business briefing, maybe here in the next few months.
Yeah, we'll let them learn the ropes and then invite them on the show. All right, so it's Monday, which means it's Data Monday, and playing the part of Brian Kelly is Alexa.
Yes, I will do my my very best Brian Kelly. Let me see here. Let me move this down, and so I can get this presented. Okay, so the very first slide, you'll see some economic strength here. And so if it's a little bit small on your screen, in the top left-hand corner, we have confidence in the green line. Top right-hand corner, we have housing with the orange line. Industrial is that bluish purple in the bottom left, and then retail in that pinkish in the bottom right. And so as you can see, a big slide in our consumer confidence. Housing and retail is also trending downward too. Industrial, I'll mention, is really level, but let's keep in mind there's quite a big backlog of supply chain issues. So it's not for certain that this is reflective of our current reality, but all of these signs are really pointing towards a pretty high risk of a recession here soon. On the next slide, so this is showing family income over 75% and that confidence drop. So the slide, if we look at the last slide on that top left, we were talking about consumer confidence. If we were just to zero in on family income over $75,000, this slide reflects that, and it shows the consumer confidence of those making more than that is even more pronounced and really falling below even the depths of the pandemic. So you'll see here at the very end, we're here in 2022, even compared to 2020 is quite dramatic. And then you'll see that orange line dating back to 2011, pretty close to where we're at here in 2020. Again, very concerning, especially for this particular subset of individuals. This is a chart kind of showing the 2021 and 2022 trust Americans have in institutions. This is a Gallup test that they do. And I'll make a little plug that the Yuval Levin with the American Enterprise Institute, if you're interested in learning about his take on institutions, the importance that they have in America, I think it's a fascinating read, but that's just my nerdy 2 cents. But anyway, back to the Gallup test. Everyone is truly taking a hit. Congress, presidency, you'll see the US Supreme Court too. But you will see us at the top. Small businesses are still the most trusted out there. And I'll make a note that there is a significant, you'll see there at the bottom, big business, a significant difference between the trust of small businesses and big businesses here. This slide, we're seeing our labor force participation rate for the US. It dipped slightly to about 62.2% from 62.3%. So this is just to note that Michigan still remains well below the national average for our labor force participation rate. This slide is showing the total value of loss this year as opposed to other years in total stock market value loss, which is sitting now at $14 trillion, which is just mind-blowing to even try to wrap your head around that. But we're sitting at $14 trillion of total stock market value loss here. And you'll see as where we're at 2022 compared to even 2020, going back to even 2009, 2008 too. So pretty concerning that that dip. And then this is just within the last year. So we're going back to July 7th, 2021 and looking at the stock market, and you can see that it's just been all over the place. However, there's been a clear downward trend that has emerged just this year. This slide shows our jobless claim. So the initial jobless claim is up to about 235,000 versus roughly 231,000 in the prior weeks. Continuing jobless claims are sitting at 1.375 million versus 1.32 million or 1.324 million in the prior week. The greatest increases, again, not good states to be sitting at: New York, Michigan, and California. Especially when you look at some of the greatest decreases are some of our neighbors, including Illinois, Kentucky, and Ohio. We will end on a bright spot though. Finally, one bright spot: the number of long-term employed. So that's defined as 27 weeks and over, more than half of the year, has continued to decline. So that's our Data Monday. A lot of slides at you, but wanted to end on a positive note for you, Sarah.
All right, well, thank you, Alexa. As we wrap up, I'm just going to do two quick mentions. One is, as you begin to do your research for the primary election in August, you can visit our website, sbam.org. Alexa has worked with the Small Biz PAC to put together an endorsement guide for everyone. So right on our website, on the homepage, you can click to see that. And then I'll also let you know that we will be hosting an owner-to-owner event in Grand Rapids this Wednesday. So that, again, is an event for small business owners only to connect. Alexa will be there along with some folks from our membership team. So if you're in Grand Rapids on Wednesday, please join us. Remember, we have a new summer schedule. So we won't be back here Thursday. We'll actually see you back here next Monday, July 18th. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you then.
Bye, guys.